Yona. Yona Heifdendal. I literally just need to get into the practice of using Katina's voice. Hello.
Hello.
It is good to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I hope you're feeling a little bit better.
I am getting there, yes. If you would follow me, please.
Sure. Hello.
Hello. Karina Adendal of House Adendal. Pleased to make your acquaintance.
Pleasure to meet you. My name is Ethereal Sidriel. I'm one of the officers from Aegis.
Quite. So, have a seat. Yona, could you be a dear and fetch some tea?
Yes, ma'am.
So, busy day? At least.
Can't say the same too much on my end. Majority of me is on a relief for family sickness. But
Oh. Does your work give you much time to deal with the family?
yes, I do.
And you work for Aegis, correct? The peacekeeping agency? That's how I would have described it.
Multiple people technically have multiple jobs. It was more of an on-call type of job, unless you're an officer, which is a bit more difficult to deal with a bit more hours, majority paperwork. But yes, they give time off or mandatory time off depending on injury or family circumstances. Ours is more, well, for me, just had new additions to the family, so been taking a family relief to take care of the newborns.
That's quite nice. I would not expect agency like Aegis to give their agents much time off, considering the nature of their mission. But let's not hop right into work right away. You new members of your family? What does that mean? Like, what does that entail?
Just had kids.
Oh, you just had kids? You're
Well, my wife did. She recently had kids, so I am also taking time off.
congratulations.
Thank you. But like I said, they allow kind of a such thing. The owner used everyone's
agents are pretty. I wouldn't describe that. Would you not really freelance, but more um more on contract then? More contract is the type of- Sorry, where we are from, we don't really have this type of we're not this. Sorry, English isn't. Common is not my first language. You're perfectly fine. But I wouldn't. We don't really have that type of structure in Novaria, where we are from. We are very regimented. Very.
Think of it as majority of people who apply are on call. There's no strict hours of work unless, for example, again, an officer.
So I imagine you would have
more.
some sort of mission board, and they look out for. You would volunteer for missions that you feel suit your specialty when you have the free time.
Correct. Most of our work, outside of paperwork, for the officers, is on-call work of when either police force or nation, group, whatever the level of security reaches out and requests our assistance for whatever it is. That's when a notice for work will be sent out for all agents, and those who feel they can do the job apply for said mission.
And it was during one of said missions that dear Yona here got a little cut in the crossfire, if it were correct?
Yes, this one was not so much of an on-call. This was more of a reconnaissance mission to kind of appropriate the level of need towards the mission. We were reached out to about rumors, and rather than putting on a full mission towards a rumor, information needed to be gathered. And while gathering the information, it seems they have more than what the rumors stated, and a lot more firepower. And unfortunately, your friend here got.
It is quite concerning that a city such as Bridgeport would have such a well-hidden and active gang with firepower that would attract the attention of someone of age. I was under the impression that Bridgeport and United Sanctuary was a bit more, was a bit less crime-ridden than I was under the impression of.
That is probably a good assumption, but unfortunately, with enough time in a lot of large cities, even something that looks clean generally still has something hidden. Or people will find that something is so clean that they can hide under it.
Sad to say, our country has similar problems with groups of people who stay in hiding and don't face justice as they should. If only society was a bit cleaner than that. But it is the risks of, I guess, living, and I guess having your own choices. It is a bit concerning, though, that it got to the point where, from what Yona described it as, a bit of a gunfight, like a firefight almost. It got a bit intense there. Her poor ear is still quite nicked.
Yes, unfortunately, the people that I was investigating ended up escalating the situation to a very high degree very quickly.
That is concerning. Considering how long I plan to stay in Bridgeport, that having such an active gang in the city, one that now, tangentially at least, or even directly, we have been involved in, might make some of our daily living a bit more difficult, especially for Yona here, considering how often she goes out into the city. My work keeps me here a bit much, so maybe it's less of my personal problem, but her problems are my problems.
That is fair.
Um,
Well, we have brought this up to the police force in the city, and will be, at least on Aegis's side, looking into the matter further, whether the police force wishes us to intervene or not.
so are you expecting a bit more, quite a bit of Aegis activity in the city coming into the future due to this crime's nature or this gang situation?
As long as we are given jurisdiction to do so, most likely. How we
Oh, that is
work
quite
is
relieving.
yes. How we work is as long as the location gives us the legal rights to do our work in the location till they revoke it, our agents will be on duty to work towards it and things like that.
Do Aegis agents and agents in general always need authorization from the country who has jurisdiction over that land? They don't
At
ever impose
least
themselves if they see anything wrong or
at least the
anything
city.
misjustice being carried. At least this city.
Yes, if it's obviously if there's something going on in forest region or things like that, um, and it is of a specific scale that could cause a large amount of damage, um, there are very rare cases where we will act before getting permission from the owners of said location for legal matters, obviously. Most cases is always request permission for the agency to have operations being held in their jurisdiction. I believe the only time we would ever go against that would be if it was such a tight window to prevent catastrophic damage or loss of life.
That makes sense. It relieves me to know that Aegis will not let injustices that they see prevent them from taking action if it is severe enough. I'm more so worried about Yona's ability to do her tasks and live her life out in the city. She was seen fighting on maybe not on your side, but she from what I was able to gather from what she described to me, she was misidentified as reinforcement for you or something of that sort and shot upon. And whether that is a fact or not, that is the impression that this gang is now under. So I do hope that the Bridgeforest Police Department or Aegis in itself is able to take care of this mess or this unruly gang activity, so Yona does not have to fear for her life when she's going out.
We do wish to help with that matter as soon as possible. And if there's anything we can do for you or Miss Yona due to the misinterpretation that that gang had, please let us know. I do feel responsible for her being caught in the crossfire.
Well, that is the risks one takes when going out alone and hearing gunshots, I guess. But it is quite relieving to know that you feel some sort of responsibility. But you should not place misdue blame on yourself. It is ultimately the one who pulled the trigger that got her injured. I just wish that my main concern here is that she will be seen as a target now. From Yona, you quite injured one of them, correct? You were able to fight back with one of them and subdue them before retreating, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
From my impressions, these gangs work through their gang politics. I'm not quite familiar with this. Maybe you could correct me. I'm sure you have more experience dealing with more street level gangs than I do. I'm more familiar with military, of course. But I would imagine that gangs like these operate on showing or displaying strength and hiding weakness to maintain their reputation. And by having one of their own injured by an unarmed, though quite fierce civilian, as they saw it, their reputation might take a hit, and as such, they might get a bit more aggressive or try to get reparations. And while we are strong enough to resist said attempts, I do fear for Yona's well-being when going out, which means that our operations and our livelihood in the city are a bit at risk now, which is a bit undue. So I would hope and place a little bit of stress on probably solving the situation on Aegis's part. From what you said, they were kind of oddly strong for a gang that was so small or so unknown. Was this due to how well funded they seemed? Were they well armed or something, or were they enhanced in some way, or some species or race that had? Was it? I do not have. Do you know anything more about this gang, so we could keep an eye out?
Ground level, they're, as you might call it, basic grunts, or they're traffickers of what we assume is drugs, or some type of illegal contraband. Don't seem to have too much in the base of weaponry or tactics, but it seems whoever they called in their backup were of a higher tier. I'd say probably their superiors. They came in with much more tactical action and more heavier gear, so they seem to have degrees of what each person has
So,
access to.
so they are a bit of a tiered structure. That is a bit relieving to know that the regular gangsters in the streets are not so well armed as to bring risk upon passing civilians. Instead, more operating on a held back position. No.
They still have fully automatics though, so that is still a
Oh.
danger to anyone, even the ground level.
Hmm.
It was more the ones had more, I guess you could say, better equipment to take a hit, and their ability to follow commands and, well, do a pincer attack is what they attempted on me.
So they had a bit more tactical training than you would imagine a normal street gang would
Yes.
have. It is a little concerning. That speaks to some sort of higher backer in them, or some sort of personnel who has ex-military training or something of the sort. Maybe mercenary.
Potentially. They
Hmm.
didn't seem to be able to hold the structure for too long, so they're probably not fully trained, but they're at least aware of the tactics.
Hmm. So there's still a chance to nip the problem in the bud, so to speak, while they are
Yes.
still not fully armed and trained up. That is quite relieving. I hope Aegis takes advantage of that situation, or the Bridgeport Police Department at least. So I imagine there's might be a bit of politics involved. Who knows? You never know with these types of things. What
Ground level, I
I'm
believe.
wondering is Aegis has dealt with the problems before, right? Sort of armed up gangsters, people with training in squad tactics. Yes. Does that mean you all receive like training as well to sort of combat that, or are they usually seen as trained before they become agents? It strikes me as a bit curious.
We've had multiple levels. We've had employees come in that are already fully trained in their own aspect, and then there are training regiments that go on every week, which is optional, to kind of
bring everyone together to see which agents work well together, how well they can mesh in a group, and see what groups kind of work well together. We have a wide variety of people, so unlike your most likely, as you said, militarized experience of everyone more uniform and all mostly under the exact same um, regimen of training, while we have basic training, which is regimented, whatever their advanced actions are beyond the basic understanding of combat can vary heavily.
Hmm. And I'm guessing Aegis maintains a strict sort of standard for the minimum required for an agent to sort of join, considering its nature.
Everyone, as long as anyone passes the evaluation, which is interviews and things like that, they can join. But anything that goes beyond just basic work of either being a researcher or paper pusher, no one is fully assigned a role until they have gone through proper training and then successfully been deployed on a mission.
Hmm.
And
That's
we
quite curious.
generally have.
So the application process itself is not really that strict. It's more you need to meet a minimum requirement, and you then showcase your skills and then apply yourself in areas you think are best, and showcase your strengths the most.
Correct.
That's quite a freeform structure. That's quite intriguing.
It is. Well, the proprietor of Aegis, Miss Hybris, um, she doesn't like to restrict the idea of people who want to work towards peace to be restricted too heavily. So she is more than happy to let anyone apply and attempt, but she doesn't promise giving everyone who applies to be put on payroll for just free money. Since we are an on-call, that does mean people will get a consistent flow of money for upkeep to make sure everyone is always healthy, in shape, and fully fit for action at any moment. But
So you are cared for when you are not on call. It is not a sort of bounty system where you complete a mission and that is how you make pay. It is more you maintain a standard level of readiness at the very minimum, or give agents the resources to maintain that readiness.
yes, that is why we are practically on call at all times unless you bring it forward that you need time away, which she is more than happy to do.
Hmm. So, like you said, that means does agents. This brings me back to you and your family and the fact that you said you were able to get time off to deal with your new children. So that could be. Is there sort of a seniority-based system? Because obviously you can't have too many agents off call, or else no missions would be complete. Is there like someone? Is there a tier structure on like how accomplished agents are and how much say they have on towards of how much time they have off? Because I wonder.
You could say there's kind of really only three, which is the recruit level, which is people who have passed the application process and they're officially assigned to start doing things with Aegis. Then there are the core members, which have successfully passed an on-field evaluation after completing a mission, and then there is the officers, which overview all of that.
And you are an officer, correct? So you have a bit of oversight towards the members and new recruits.
Yes.
So you do have a bit of seniority and repairing there. Do these officers lead missions? Like you said that there was not much specific training. It's more freeform style. So is it like the officer's responsibility for missions? Do they take responsibility for missions?
Depends on the officer. Me, I'm more of a field officer, so hence why I was out on the field. I more evaluate things on the field. And then when I'm not on the field, I am doing paperwork to kind of overview and make sure everyone is staying healthy and all their needs are being met. We have other officers who are instructors, which are for battle instructors to make sure everyone is getting the training that they request or need. Then we have other officers that are over either medical or just information, things like that.
You mentioned medical officers. Yona, you met one of them, correct? What was their name? I don't quite recall it.
I believe her name was
I believe you
Arbor.
mentioned it.
Yes.
Arbor, yes. Are medical officers quite common? It struck me as a bit odd that in agencies such as Aegis, one so large as them had a bit of difficulty dealing with Yona's injury and required her to go get surgery at the hospital here in Bridgeport. Not that I'm calling into question Aegis's ability to care for their agents, but more so that it seems that as agents who are on call, I would have maybe expected a bit, maybe some sort of clerical healing or on-staff surgeon who deals with agents who get injured, released outside their missions, or to maintain their readiness status. So,
unfortunately, because this was not an official full-fledged mission, they did not have anyone standing by at the time. So me bringing in someone other than myself injured, they were caught off guard. They had her still on station and awake, but most of the other medical were not on duty at the time. And our medical facilities up there is not built for surgical treatments. And being that, from what I overheard, she had a bullet still inside her, they did not feel comfortable attempting any surgical removal without getting her to a actual fully functional hospital, which we have a lot of connections with several, which if an agent gets to that degree of needing something beyond just clerical healing or basic sutras, they will go to one of our assigned hospitals.
And Bridgeport is one of those such hospitals, yes? The Bridgeport Hospital?
I would assume if we haven't had connections before with them, then Hybris or Arbor made a call out and had the connections built up so they're aware of them coming in.
That is quite relieving. You know that Yona was at the very least sent to somewhere that could be cared for her. Her duties have been quite interrupted. Her training had to be a bit stalled out with her injuries. It's caused a bit of complications in terms of our operations here. As I don't know if you are aware, but this is an embassy for the Novarian, the country of Novaria, and as such, we have duties that we must attend to here. Me specifically, that take my time away. Which is why Yona here fulfills more of the basic functions, such as going out into the city and getting any resources we need here while I am busy in meetings and reviewing documentation here for the peace talks we are a part of. But now that those have been interrupted and Yona's ability to maintain that sort of flow in our work, I'm stuck in a sort of odd sort of position to where I don't really have the time strictly to care for her injury. So it is quite relieving in a way that Aegis was able to take care of the situation and treat her in the most efficient manner that they were able to. What I am questioning here, though, is how it seems to be that you were following this gang, and obviously you have no sort of control over how the gang reacts, especially considering you were scouting out, as you said, to gather information on them. But getting a civilian injured in the crossfire, that is not normal for operation of this sort of information gathering operation, correct?
No, it's not. As I stated before, at the time was simply following two what I viewed as low-level traffickers. Attempted to see if I could get them to talk. They just viewed me as a rich boy and tried to see if I could use that angle to try and get them to reveal or show what they were carrying. But unfortunately, they kicked it up to drawing weapons, and after taking warning shots, it got elevated to a point where I could no longer be passive, and things escalated from there. I wasn't going to not draw a weapon when my life was then threatened and I had guns aimed at me.
That is quite a sensible decision. You tried speaking your way out of the situation or navigating your way out without escalation. You don't have control over how lowly gangsters who presumably maybe even were on some sort of amphetamines or narcotics. You cannot control how irrational people behave in this type of situation. So that is commendable that you tried de-escalating and pulling out of the situation when you realized it was about to escalate, where others could be caught in the crossfire. Speaks well to your sense of duty to the common people and to any innocents who may be harmed, and your sense of when to act and when to de-escalate. Why I bring this up is that, as I mentioned before, my duties are a bit escalating now. My country is currently at war with another island country to our west called Macedonia. They are sort of a small, less technologically advanced country, but they are very well versed in tactics that admittedly play well into fighting against a more superior foe. And as such, I am here on peace talks with their delegation and our delegation on neutral ground that the United Sanctuary has offered to facilitate both sides of discussion away from any undue influences. And as such, I don't really have the time, so to speak, to maintain Yona's skills and give her the opportunity she needs to shine. So I was quite wondering, as you may have picked up on these hints, or maybe picked up on my interest, is, did you see Yona? Were you able to see her fight at all? Would you say she performed herself admirably for someone in her position?
Unfortunately, battle skills wise, I was not in view of her fighting. But upon watching, from what I could see of her on her skills to, well, do the basics of taking cover, monitoring the situation, so on and so forth, she seemed to understand very quickly on how to figure out the full scale of what was going on and where she could and could not go.
Well, would you say she meets at least the bare standards for what Aegis requires of Aegis? As I mentioned before, I don't really have the time to nurture her skills anymore. And she's of that age where I feel she needs to go out and see a bit more of the world, or gather her own experiences away from the more regimented military structure, and sort of get a bit more worldly experience so she may grow and get stronger and be more well informed of the world at large. I was wondering, should she apply to join Aegis? For one, that would make me feel quite a bit relieved. From what I've been hearing, it seems like Aegis takes care of their agents and provides well time off for them, so she wouldn't have to be too far from her family. But also would give her, it seems like a wonderful environment to sort of hone her skills and make the world a better place at the same time, and meet others, but surround herself with those more experienced and sort of garner and learn from them. Yona has expressed a bit of interest in perhaps applying to join Aegis after seeing the things that they are dealing with in your operations and your fighting skills, be able to hold off so many well-armed gangsters. I was wondering if you could, in return, sort of soothe my worries and my time, act as a bit of a, maybe not a character witness, but sort of allow her to mention her involvement in the scenario as part of her operation, as part of her application, and sort of, so to say, put your name down at the bottom of the page, so to speak.
I'd be more than happy to, once the application papers cross our way, to sign off that I know at least on the physical and mental side of combat experience that they pass that grade. The only thing that she would most likely have to take is simply the basic interview, where they will ask her some different questions, ranging pretty much just what her viewpoint is on things.
Making sure that her morals align with Aegis's mission, correct?
Correct.
Obviously, you want your operatives to align morally with Aegis's overall view and objectives in the world.
Correct. An example being of, like, we wouldn't want someone who just on any and every mission simply goes in thinking that the best way to solve all problems is to end all the life there. That wouldn't really do much good on a peacekeeping organization if we're trying to
That would be
keep
quite
peace on both
barbaric
sides.
for someone who's trying to bring order.
Yes,
No,
obviously
you need to
that's
take
a very
into all considerations.
extreme example, but
I have encountered such individuals before. They are always quite beastly, I would say, in terms of their mannerisms, always speaking and acting out in violence. Thankfully, no one in the Novarian Empire is raised in such a way, and Yona has always displayed herself exemplary in that regard. So I have no concerns of her judgment being affected on missions and in the interview process should any overlying questions come up. So hopefully that soothes. Hopefully that from your experiences, maybe talking to her, or your experiences with her in general align with sort of that perspective.
yeah, they are.
Have you had
very
much
well
chance
mannered.
to converse with her outside of her injuries? I noticed that you called her and texted her quite a little bit, asking how she was. And thank you for that. It was quite relieving to know that you were reaching out to those who were caught in the crossfire and following up on them. That is quite an overlooked aspect of maintaining a good relationship with those you protect. Which,
Like I said, I have the responsibility. I was the one who was running that, well, I wouldn't say mission, but that recon by myself. And due to my actions not getting the results I wished, and it caused an escalation, their injury, though I'm not the one that pulled the trigger, it still falls on me, and I wanted to make sure that they were okay.
and I am thankful to you for taking responsibility to this and owing up and soothing any tensions we may have had in this situation, and sort of paying back in the way that you could by extending the offer of follow-up and making sure that Yona is well cared for after the fact. I do believe that is pretty much all my worries soothed out, all my worries taken care for in this situation. It seems like you are of exemplary morals, and exemplary skills and dedication to what you are doing in your mission. And I'm sure that should Yona wish to apply to Aegis and sort of spread her wings a bit, she would be well looked after for. She's always been quite curious but never really been in a position to sort of experience more of the world than our military and noble upbringing allows. So I'm hoping that you or any of your colleagues, should she join, are able to sort of foster that curiosity on her part and allow her to sort of learn herself and learn how the greater world works, so she may bring back those experiences and come out at the other side as a better person.
We would be happy to have her if she wishes to join.
Well, I do believe that is all my worries smoothed over. You are welcome to stay a little bit longer, maybe enjoy the view a bit, but it is getting to the point in time where I have a meeting with my admiral about some after-action reports from my fleet back home. If you wish, you may speak to Yona a bit more about her thoughts and experiences a bit. But otherwise, it was nice to meet you, and thank you for all the information and all the soothing my worries about Yona's well-being should she wish to go on this life path, and taking responsibility for her injury.
No problem. And again, since she is aware of how to, well, access it, being to and from, if you ever wish to gauge the organization yourself, you are more than welcome to request access and or make an appointment with any of the officers to get more information firsthand.
Oh, that is quite generous. Would you believe that not many Novarians have actually left the atmosphere before? We are more ocean-going people. We do not have much. We have an interest in space, but more so from the tactical perspective. So it would be quite a fun experience to actually go into orbit, and see the world from a view that not many of my kind usually see.
It's a fun experience, especially when I inform people that they're upside down, and then they get confused.
Well, I'm sure it would be quite fun. I will definitely take you up on that offer at some point. Perhaps should Yona, after Yona is stationed there, I wouldn't want to crowd her too much and sort of lean over her shoulder too much. But once she is well situated, if she, as you said, passes the application process, I would be delighted to go and tour the station quite a bit and see what life is like up in the atmosphere.
Sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Y-
as I said,
Yona, dear,
anytime.
would you do me the pleasure and do him the pleasure of escorting him out?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. It was nice meeting you.
It was a pleasure meeting you as well. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You have yourself a wonderful evening.
You.
Thank you again.
Of course.
Is there any questions that you have personally on the whole matter?
I believe Miss Karina addressed most of the things that I was wondering about.
Good. But just wanted to ask again and see if you have any other personal questions. Those are all formal questions, but sometimes people have other thoughts.
What kind of what kind of people does he just employ normally?
Oh, they've never had a restriction really on any kind. You'll see all types of people, different races, viewpoints. It's definitely a mixing pot.
I understand. And I hope I can should things pan out, I hope that I can be of assistance.
You can be as much of assistance as you wish to be. Seeing as how you are more outgoing, at least to the point of Bridgeport, you could be someone who would be of a lot of help to our investigations. You might know layouts of the city or the general flow of where people usually go or don't go.
That is possible.
Do you have any questions for me or anything else before I head out? Doesn't have to be on Aegis.
I do not know. Forgive me, I'm not typically that much of a talker.
You might get that way if you join. A lot of agents love to talk. But don't feel pressured if there's any topics you don't wish to talk on.
It was good to see you again. And I hope you have
Good
safe
to see you
travels.
as well. You as well. I hope you're, well, all of you get to feeling better. I can still see a little bit that it's still wearing you out a bit.
I should be alright.
That's good. But again, if any complications come up or anything of that, like I said, we'll take responsibility. Just please reach out to us and we'll make sure you get the proper medical care to fix anything, okay?
I appreciate this.
You're welcome. And feel free to relay that information to your guardian as well.
Thank you for stopping by.
Anytime. If you need me or any of us again, or you need us to visit, feel free to reach out, and the same towards us as well. Feel free to request to visit us at any time. Simply just contact one of us and we'll make sure you get in. Right. Thank you very much.
He has returned safely, ma'am.
Thank you, dear. Tell me, what are your impressions of him?
I do not know if it is just a front, but he seems don't know, a bit too friendly for what I would expect of someone in his position.
That is the exact impression I was left with. He struck me more as a family man with endearing morals than someone you would expect in such a position of such a well-known peacekeeping organization, especially an active combatant. He seemed quite morally righteous, if a bit naive. Would you say so?
Perhaps, but there is always the possibility that it is, I would not say false, but it is always possible for someone to put on a friendly face and be considering other things in the background.
Yes, one must not tread lightly. But either that was an exceptionally well-crafted mask on his, putting up a front of, dare I say, weakness, in order to have a sort of underestimation impression. But would you say, from your impression, that it was a mask? Give me a little bit of your insight on how likely you think either he was being completely earnest or if it was a front he put on.
I don't have any reason to believe that there was anything he deceived us about. I don't think any of the information he gave us was false. He seemed genuine, but maybe that
Almost
is...
disturbingly genuine.
It could be due to him feeling responsible for what happened.
Someone driven a bit more by their own emotions and feelings of responsibility and their own morals than someone who is a bit goal-driven or driven towards their mission. They let their emotions. I got the impression that him, and perhaps Aegis in general, through him, lets their morals guide their mission instead of the mission guide their morals, which has its advantages and disadvantages. Would you say so?
I suppose it depends on the situation.
Right. I, at least, do not think it was that much of a... Maybe he was playing it up a bit, as you said, for responsibility and to soothe any concerns we have. But from the impression he gave me, it seemed to be quite an earnest attempt to reconcile and make sure that he did not leave this impression of uncaring or sort of rigidness to him and Aegis. What I want to know, though, is if that is something unique to him as an officer in his position, or if that is something indicative of Aegis as a whole, is that all their operatives are earnest and truly, genuinely believe every ounce of what they are saying. He struck me, like I said, more as a family man instead of a politician or a soldier. What I am a bit intrigued by is how, despite that sort of family nature, he was able to hold off such a well-armed group. He seemed to be exceptionally well-trained and a powerful individual, despite his more earnest nature. I want your impression. Give me your thoughts. Would you say that he has strength because of his earnest nature, or in spite of? Answer first. Speak your mind. I'm curious.
That is complicated, and I don't know if I'd be able to figure that out until It sounds like something that I would need to work alongside him in order to figure out. I can say for certain that Miss Arbor was much more collected and much more professional. So it could be individual variation. I don't know if he is indicative
What
of
I
the
was
rest.
able to pick up on is you made the comment about Aegis agents having the resources to sort of take care of themselves and look out for their own. What I was able to gather is that he, as an individual, has things he fights to protect and ideas he fights to, and lets those drive his missions and his choices, which can be a powerful motivator, but also quite a powerful weakness. So one must take care to ensure that those attachments and those behind the scenes and those that you are fighting for do not distract you from performing your mission. And what I was able to gather is that he was quite irresponsible in a way. He seemed a bit indecisive from what you were able to tell me of how the firefight went out on the streets. And from what he was able to describe was that he found himself in a position where the mission conflicted with his feeling and responsibility towards those around him. And as such, would you say he made the situation worse or better from your initial surface level impression of the fight you were caught in? How would you have dealt with that situation? You tailing some operatives or members of a gang, and you were made out and confronted. Would you take decisive action and secure yourself in your mission, or would you try to de-escalate and prevent harm around you? What would you do?
I believe it depends on the situation, but I suppose it depends on how dangerous it would be if the individuals I was observing figured out who I was and why I was following them. If they seemed to be none the wiser, then I would try to disengage and de-escalate. But I suppose...
Even if they were to say, have a sword or a gun to your head, what would you do in that situation? I believe we've gone over this before.
I suppose it would depend on how many of them there are.
Two. There were two immature but well-armed individuals around you from what you were able to gather. Two perhaps maybe slightly better than common thugs, but no soldier or no warriors, with knives out, blades out, or a gun to your head. And you were there, armed and ready, but not expecting a confrontation. How would you react, knowing that escalating could lead to bystanders being injured, damage to property or people around you, but also risking your mission by bringing undue attention to yourself? How would you operate?
These individuals seem as though they are not averse to brandishing their arms, even in situations where it may not be necessary. So, even if that is something they've resorted to, I don't think that necessarily means that it is that de-escalating is a lost cause. But I would pay attention to their body language and subtle movements and things like that. And if I deemed that there was no way to immediately disengage from the situation, I would neutralize both of them before they could do anything.
Right. Act decisively. In that situation, with power of hindsight, and as a case study, it seems he tried to de-escalate, and as such, allowed them to take the first shot and pin him down, and call for reinforcements, and as such, his concern for those around him and his want to de-escalate the situation inversely led to an increase in escalation. He let his thoughts and morals guide him. His dislike, I would almost say, from my impression of him as sort of a family man, his dislike of, say, doing what is necessary in taking a life led inversely to those around him and those who he has responsibility over being at risk. You would be correct in that situation to want to act decisively and neutralize the threat. Or it also compromises your mission by, if they were able to, as they did, pin him down. Now that gang is on high alert. Now they are a known cause, so now other parties will be looking into them, assumably, such as Aegis and the police department. But if you in that situation were to act decisively, you would keep your involvement with the gang and the perceived interest for whatever organization or any nebulous organization the gang perceives at a minimum. Because by acting decisively, that information would not be able to get back to the rest of the gang. You would neutralize the threat and dispose of the evidence as necessary. Which I'm glad to see that you came to roughly that right conclusion and were able to think through that sort of scenario in your head and come to the conclusion that as unarmed gangsters, not unarmed, untrained gangsters with guns or thugs did not really, in that situation, they would not really pose a threat to you, assuming you are well armed. So, as I'm sure you noticed, Yona, I have quite an important task for
Yes, ma'am.
you. It is quite a bit more than I usually ask of you. Quite a bit more than someone of my standing would ask one such as you to perform. There is real risk involved here. Real risk of... Let's see if you understand. Are you able to pick up on what I want? What your mission may be?
You wish for me to apply for the organization?
Yes, but for what goal?
Considering they operate in this area, it is likely good for us to have an eye kept on them. I understand
That
there are
is
things...
true. That is true, but what... Maybe you are not quite aware of this as I thought, but Aegis as a whole is seen as sort of a moral authority, maybe not a moral authority, but an organization that has a goal and has a mission. And while aligning with most legal interests to where they're operating, they are seen as a bit of a risk in Novaria. I'm sure you might imagine. Their goals do not necessarily have the best interest for those in the most noble or determined viewpoints. As such, there's a bit of an understanding among officers and nobles alike that one must not bring too much attention to the country as a whole, and attract undue attention towards those whose morals do not align up with our understanding of the world. So what I am asking you here is both very risky for both of us, both very risky for the country and our position in it as a whole, and very risky for our country on a global stage. But the information that could be garnered and the connections that could be made on an organization such as Aegis are too good to pass up. The amount of access they have, the amount of fingers they have dipped into different soups, so to speak, is a bit unprecedented for an organization of their moral alignment, an organization of their level of influence. So what I am hoping that you are able to do is garner a bit of insight upon how they operate, and garner a bit of insight on how much risk our people are at from Aegis interference and Aegis involvement, for they do not truly understand our ways and do not truly understand why we do what we do. They are, from my impression of them, my impression of their agents and information garnered through other officers' research and other agents' research on our part, a very high-risk organization in terms of threat to our national security. So, what I am asking of you is quite unusual. I'm placing a lot of trust in you to keep attention away from us, while also getting as much information as we can, ensuring that I am able to present any information you bring, any useful information you bring towards me, towards the noble family and the heads of offices in the military, that is to able to bring a decision on our part on whether Aegis needs to be dealt with or not, or whether we should shy away from their attention, or whether we even need to be worried about their attention in the first place. Do you understand how high risk this mission is, and how much freedom I am giving you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand how much trust I am placing upon you
Yes, ma'am.
for both my future and yours, and even your people? This is an opportunity for you. Prove that your kind can be useful to Novaria as more than simple pets or playthings or servants. This is a chance for you to prove to myself and everyone else in Novaria that you and your people have a usefulness to us, a place under us, that you are worthy of being elevated as one such as you has been.
Yes, ma'am.
This is an opportunity for you. An opportunity that none of your kind or your people have ever had before. Should you fail, I feel I do not need to speak too much on what would happen to myself, especially you, should you show that your kind are perhaps not as capable or useful to us as we understand, as I am hoping you could be. In the Arundel family, there are lessons passed down throughout generations. I have given you many such lessons about etiquette and how we view the world and how to make the world a more orderly and beneficial state for those around us. One lesson that I have applied to you, but perhaps never outright spoken to you about, is the usefulness of fear as a tool. As I am sure you are quite experienced with, fear is a powerful motivator for quite many things. But are you able to infer upon what makes fear so useful as a tool? From your experiences, are you able to infer what, let's say, aspects make it so potent?
Hmm.
It is two things, as my father and grandfather put it before me. Fear is a mixture of certainty and unpredictability. Fear is only useful when the party you are using it on is both certain that should they fail, or should they not listen, or should they go out of line, that certainty is that they will be punished. That certainty is that their family, their financial situation, their social standing, or any such things that they fear losing will be taken away from them. That is a certainty. That is the first aspect of true fear as a tool. The second aspect of fear, unpredictability, is so potent because while they are certain that they will fail, that they will be punished, should they fail, it's knowing that at any time, whether they be comfortable at home, in bed, or out on their job or daily life, in the back of their mind, they don't know, once they fail, when the hammer will drop, or what manner of hammer it would be. I will admit, afraid to put you on this mission. I am fearful of you failing your task. I am quite certain that should I fail, and should you fail, that we will be punished in some way, either to be scorn or loss of social standing. But I am uncertain which manner that failure should take. What I need you to understand is that should you fail, the thing I fear most in this situation, the thing that makes me so uncertain of what shape this punishment or fear will take, that I do not know what I would do to you should you come on this. I do not know what I would do to you, or how I would feel about you, or your people, should you not prove yourself. Do your best to assuage my fears. Do your best to make that fear unfounded. Get rid of that unpredictability. Make the punishment uncertain. Should you remove that fear from me, you yourself will have nothing to. Good. You will write up your application to Aegis. You will take their entrance exams and interviews. You will be given as much freedom as you need to accomplish your goals and tasks in Fort Aegis. As long as you complete your mission and stay on task, you will be given more freedom than you have been able to even understand in your. More freedom than any of your kind have ever been given. Once you are rested and recovered, we will review your training. We will brush up your skills. You performed somewhat admirably, able to take down an enemy combatant unarmed and surprised. But you need to be ready as an operative in the field and as a soldier. Take up arms at any moment. Be on call, and as such, your training will renew when your wounds are healed. I will go over less of a soldier's upbringing and training and more of an agent's understanding of their role and an agent's mindset. So you may fit in at Aegis and may accomplish your task appropriately. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, please take the tea set away and leave me to my appointment in 20 minutes. You are free the rest of the night. Perhaps do some studying.
Yes, ma'am.
And Yona, as I mentioned, unpredictability. Keep it in mind. It's a useful tool.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You're dismissed.